Welcome to Toronto, Canada. I'm Brian Jones here with Kevin Minderhout, bringing you coverage of the U23 World Championships in the women's division here on day 3. We have a slated matchup between two undefeated teams and two teams we expect to go deep in this tournament. Team USA versus Team Canada. High-powered rosters, lots of talent across the board, and they're getting ready to go here. Canada going to be pulling. We're about to get started in this game. Kevin, you had a chance to talk to the Canadian coaches beforehand. What can we expect from this roster?
Well, we can expect a lot of experience. The Canadian team, 17 of 20 players have participated on Canadian national teams in the past, and they know each other well, and they know how to play big-time games like this one against the high-powered U.S. team.
U.S. surviving today. Matchup against Japan was down 16-14 before rattling off 3 breaks to win the game. Talking to the coaches beforehand, they said they were mixing up lines about 80% of the time, trying to figure out what works. Towards the end of the game, they set up what was working best for them, and here we go. USA starting things off. A little bit of mishandle of the pole, centers the disc, and Canada comes in zone. Right now, USA going against the wind to start this game off. It's been a windy day with a lot of changes. Started off hot, now a little bit cooler. Clouds just cleared out before the start of this game. USA going through the zone. Looking deep right off the bat. Just short of the end zone. Terrier. Chastain. Inside break. Now on the goal line.
You're going to have to bear with us as the U.S. numbers on the roster given to us aren't matching up.
Claire Desmond with the goal, starting things off for the U.S., 1-0.
And Claire Desmond, definitely one of the players to watch for me on Team USA. The one Fury representative currently healthy and playing for U.S. The other was Meister, went down early in training camp with an ACL tear. Never something you want, especially from a big-time player like that. Anybody that can make Fury, as you know, Brian, is going to be one of the top players, not only in their country but in the world. That team just absolutely dominating not only the North American play but also bringing home numerous international titles. Couldn't seal the deal last year at WGC. Was up on Japan only to falter in what was very likely the game of the tournament.
USA starts things off here with a break upwind. Both teams having a lot of support here in the stands tonight. Breaking down the roster for the U.S., we see a lot of players. We're a good mix here between the West Coast and the East Coast. We just talked about Claire Desmond playing for Fury, of course. Then we see a lot of representation from East Coast Phoenix, coming from the North Carolina region. Claire Chastain, Callahan winner. And here we go for Canada getting started. Centers the disc. Loku. Jay looking back. Quick D by the Americans. Transitions for an easy break. 2-0. U.S. gets out on top.
Amanda Good there with the reception and the goal. Standout player from Colorado, Collie. I've heard her described as unreal good, extremely good. Any kind of variation you want to add before good.
Good enough right now to get the 2-0 lead. Here we go, USA again getting that crucial upwind point early on. We'll see if it makes a difference. Canada having trouble, only a few passes into their first turnover of the game. See another D-line here from the United States. Tucker out in the field for the Canadians with Sparks. Short. Getting some last-minute instructions before this offensive point. They're going to have a downwind. Chance.
And these two teams, Brian, part of the contender core at this tournament in the women's division, made up of the U.S., Canada, and Japan. Look for two of those three teams to be in the finals come Sunday. Very little chance for anybody outside there to make it. We'll talk a little bit later about why Colombia is not included in that list.
Big zone here from the United States. 3-3-1. Playing man back on the handlers. Now up the line, but a drop gives it back to the Americans. Not a good start here for Team Canada. USA moving it quickly, striking, just not there, too low to reel it in. Canadians pick it back up. A little bit of time to regroup. Still in this poachy zone, 3-3-1 with man on the handlers. Going deep. Deed by Cohen. Going deep. USA trying to break once again, but just out of reach.
Of number 16, Megan Cousins.
Canada has not been able to move it thus far. Going with the wind. Took a shot deep, but that was deed by Cohen last.
Wind left, right to left on your screen. That's a transition from earlier today where it was going left, right.
Cohen baiting that deep bomb intended for Fortin deep. Two nothing so far.
Picking the disc up for the U.S. Claire Chastain, 2013 Callahan winner.
This one pops over the top, but enough time to reel it in. Now going deep, striking up when this one's going to hang. Can she run it down? Yes. Back to Chastain. Chastain looking back.
Chastain, every other right now.
Fits it into Cohen for the goal. 3-0 United States. Starting off this game red hot.
An unexpected 3-0 start for the U.S. We knew they were good, but we didn't expect them to be this good right now. The U.S. team only playing together for a short period of time. Looks like they're Canadians going to take a timeout. We're going to take a quick timeout too. We'll be right back with you to conclude this first half of the 2013 World Championships.
We're back here in Toronto, Canada. The U23 World Championships Next Gen Network's coverage of the showcase game tonight, USA versus Canada. I'm Brian Jones here with Kevin Minderhout. Right now, U.S. with a red-hot start up 3-0 on the home team Canada, taking a timeout to regroup. So far, it's been all U.S. They've been able to work the disc downwind, while Canada has had not much success at all moving the disc.
And having very little trouble moving that disc. Just putting lots of spin on it, relying on, so far right now, relying on Claire Chastain. Again, the Callahan winner going every other that last point, working it upwind, punching it into the goal. We were talking briefly before we went to commercial, before the timeout, about the training schedules for these teams. The U.S. using this early pool play action to help build chemistry. They've only been together on the rare occasion prior to the week training camp they had in Buffalo starting on the 15th.
USA getting set to pull here, trying to extend their lead. Canada trying to get on the board. Offensive line out there for Canada.
And the wind staying very consistent right now. Strong, but not strong enough to stop the U.S. from getting going what they want. We'll see if Canada can't find a rhythm and get on the board.
Ball from the United States. Kimura. Baku. Back to Kimura. Man defense here as Canada is forced to go into the wind. Like this look, relentless pressure. This one going deep, going to fall short. Another opportunity for the United States. This one rolls a little bit.
She's 17.
Canada setting up a zone. Jones moves the disc. Stern gets it back in the middle of the cup.
That's good.
Good. Moving it around. Back to Stern. Good. Trying to sort out this zone. Stern. Turnover in the middle of the zone. Works out for Team Canada, getting it back. Trying to slow this momentum. Moku. Looking for the around. Mendal. And a quick D by the U.S. gets it right back, but foul on the play. There was some contact. Groom coming in.
The U.S. going with a strong person-to-person defense now, with Canada facing the upwind goal. This one, very important for the Canadian offense to put in.
Putting it up. They're not going to come down with this. Nothing going Canada's way so far. Jones. Looking underneath. Lots of contact there. Pass intended for Sal. Looking upfield now. Break throw for the goal. U.S. still continuing its momentum, up 4-0.
And good putting it right on the money. She's got one goal now, one assist.
Backhand bender to the other corner of the end zone. And in this wind, press a throw.
Yeah, impressive, Brian, in that the wind, the way that the angle she put on it prevented the wind from taking it and letting it fly out of the receiver's range. Great awareness of what the wind was doing to her throw and putting the right one into the space available.
Talking to the U.S. team before the game, expressed a lot of confidence. We're prepared for the wind, is what I was told. And they went to training camp in Buffalo. Got to experience the wind coming off of Lake Erie.
And going back to that training routine, this team selected early January. The Canadian team selected in the fall of 2012. They've met up once before. That was in June, middle of June, at Eugene's Summer Solstice Tournament, where the U.S. came out on top 15-10. That Canada squad was full of all their players, the U.S. missing a couple. So if that's any indicator of the beginning of this game, we can expect the U.S. to keep rattling off the points here.
Still, these are considered to be two of the best under 23 teams in the world. We'll have to see a response from Canada. Tucker tries to get it off, and still nothing working.
The wind just causing havoc for Canada.
Cooper. Cohen. Soper. Looking back. Finds. Receiver. Dishes for the score to Desmond. 5-0. This is all you. This call's coming back. Like the Soper. Looks like we have a contested stall.
The crowd calling for the 11 call. Gonna be some debate there. There's no observers here in the WFDF rule set. So as normally happens when it's call, contest, no contest, it's probably going to be a contest. Neither player wanting to give that disc back, probably too close to call, so they're just going to tap it in, go from 8. Desmond going to pick it up, pick up the reception.
Nice receiver to have when you're in trouble. Soper for Desmond. Dishes, Desmond, and there we go, 5-0. USA still leading.
And as we mentioned earlier, Desmond, a member of the renowned Fury squad in San Francisco. Here she is snatching a goal, and she, a member of the UC Berkeley Pie Queens program, famous for putting out a lot of great talent in the Bay Area, a feeder for Fury. Not to mention the numerous other Southwest schools in the college division. Everybody going to that Fury team.
Just when you win that many championships in a row and you have the ability to recruit, great system.
And one of the interesting things about the women's division as a whole, still very concentrated in a lot of top talent, as we see at this tournament, with Canada, Japan, and the U.S. being at a different tier right now. That's simply a matter of development. As the women's game continues to grow, that top talent going to be challenged more and more. Going to spread out. Right now, though, not much of a challenge for the U.S. as they're 5-0 over Canada. Canada has yet to put together a run of any kind.
Maku. Mendel. Slowly working upfield a little bit here. Along the sideline now. Ho. Looking deep. As the receiver, Big D. Groom has just been a monster so far this tournament. Mugen.
Groom, one of that player that comes out when you ask what happened in that USA-Japan game, it was all Groom.
Kostick, inside break. Cousins. Swafford looking downfield. Now back to the dumps, not available. Kostick having to go deep. This one's going to be an overthrow and give it back to Canada. Still a lot of support in the stands here. Looking back. Not available. Tight defense here. A lot of pressure through the entire game. Big catch along the sideline. Continuing underneath. Ho. Now along the sideline. Looking for the first point. Scarth made the catch earlier, preserved possession. Dishing it, still on the goal line, Loku. Tapping it in. Looking for anything Canada really wants to get aboard, and we have a pick or a foul call in the stack. Collision with Caustic.
Some more discussion out there. Not unclear what it's about. Going to get tapped in, though. And Canada on the doorstep of their first point and locking it in.
And the crowd response is immense. Really cheering them on.
And with good reason, Brian. Canada needing to get something going. And Koo providing the assist. That one upwind, no less, Brian. You would imagine a team struggling to get points on the board. They're going to get their first one going downwind. Canada changing the fortune and going upwind, which is...
Yeah, right now they're able to get on the doorstep and finally punch it in. And the U.S., though, has really shown with these caliber of athletes that the wind is not a problem. We saw for some other teams early in the tournament that throwing was an issue, dealing with zones. And so both teams have had their turnovers, yes, but shown the ability they can put it if they need to. Timing for Canada hasn't been really great. We expected, even though it was 5-0 and the U.S. maybe would be favored in this game, we expected Canada to come out with a little bit less jitters. They just didn't get off to that start, and we'll have to see if they can rebound. It's a game to 17. U.S. has been able to score quickly. Shows that Canada can get back in this with a little bit of hard work.
And they certainly have the ability. It's not a lack of talent here. The 5-1 point differential is not because Canada doesn't have what it takes to match woman to woman with the U.S. Simply running into some early game frustrations.
Jones is going to pick this one up. Actually, excuse me, Chastain is going to take it. Calling for the brick. Chastain out of UNC Wilmington.
And Canada opting for what looks like a zone this point. The wind mellowing out here. Chastain taking her time to get in there. Hopefully that wind will keep down as she gets this disc into play.
We have Desmond deep. You can't cheat on her if you're the deep defender right now. Chastain in the middle of the cup has done so well to give and go, but this cup is certainly intimidating. Able to get it around. But an overthrow gives her right back to Canada. Momentum starting to shift in their favor with the crowd. Koo. Looking for Ho in isolation. Puts it out to space. Scarth reels it in. 2-5. And you would have thought right now that Canada was the one up 5-2 with this crowd.
Well, the eighth man always coming in handy. Giving you a little bit of emotional boost when you need it most. When you're down. Getting something going again. Somewhat expected. This is the advantage of Canada scoring their first one going upwind. They're going to counter one of those breaks the U.S. had and be within 3.
And one of the themes we talked about throughout the entire tournament is confidence, and it's so easy to lose it. If it's windy and you feel like the throws aren't working out and you start to get a little bit tight and frustrated, like you said, getting that upwind point, getting 2 in a row says, hey, we can do this. We've done both sides. There's no mental block. They can get back in this game, and I think at this point we should probably expect them to. U.S. was red hot. They've cooled down a little bit. Let's see how the U.S. now responds, especially when the crowd's against them.
And I think there was a little bit of a mental error there. Maybe mental is not the right word. Decision error by Chastain starting off against that zone. Had the wide open handler on the near side to us, if you're looking at your screen, dumped it right away. I think you want to wait on that. There's a 4-person cup trying to trap you on the downwind sideline. She goes straight there, playing right into the Canada zone without even gaining any yards. Better to sit there, hold it, size it up, see if you can't work it to the upwind side before you start moving that disc across the field.
Now we see a three-man trap zone here from Canada, really protecting anything here to the backhand side as Good, trying to work it through, directing some traffic, taking her time. Having to go across field. Cooper coming down with it, so tall. Puts it over the top. Fits it in really close. Call on the play. That one was a tight throw. Groom, though, potentially had the goal, but a call on the play. Snyder picking it back up.
Some contact, a cluster of players there. Lots of discussion. Probably a pick call. This is the Wooftuff rule set, so the pick rule, even if it doesn't affect the play, still brings the disc back, which is what we're seeing here. One of those rules that, as a U.S. player, I think they made the right decision to get rid of that earlier on. Hey, if something's happening totally unrelated to play, let the play happen. Why bring it back in this situation?
That rule switched in the U.S. about 8 years ago. A lot of differences here, and Canadian teams and even these Canadian players are used to playing by a different rule set, playing mostly by USAU rules. And still some questioning going on here. We don't have a resolution.
And this has been one of the reasons why allowing continuation to occur is worthwhile. We're having an argument right now about where to set up 5 players that were not involved in the play. We have to go back several throws just to figure out something that didn't affect the play. We would have had a score. We'd be getting on to the next game. Just something to nitpick on here, Brian, while we pass the time.
Absolutely. The observers here, and one of the things talking with Dr. Tom Crawford, CEO of USA Ultimate World Congress, got to attend in Japan last year, really trying to promote the use of observers, and it's really for the other countries, not Canada and the U.S., but something just that's unknown, and they don't know what it's going to do to the game. Here we go, high release, starting play. Liu reels it in. 6-2. U.S. goes up. Great response from the Americans. And quiet the crowd a little bit.
And going back to that same area where they scored it before the pick called, really utilizing the back left corner of the end zone, seeing the weakness in the Canadian defense, and finding Liu for the 6-2 lead. You're talking about observers. We do see 2 officials here in orange. Under the Wooftuff rule set, team captains can agree before the game to allow sideline officials. So they're going to be calling active in and out of bounds calls. Just a good common sense measure. It's easy for them to stand on the sideline and make those calls. They'll also be calling offsides. As we talked about earlier in the week, that rule set only comes into play if they're supposed to call it if they're a yard or more offsides. So a little bit fuzzy right now, making the adjustment into the observer rule set.
And there's no penalty associated with that offside call.
There is no penalty under Wooftuff
other
rules.
than a repull.
A repull only. The repull, sometimes a penalty, sometimes a blessing.
Especially in these windy conditions.
Always love when your best puller shanks it out of bounds and was fortunate enough to go offsides.
I've even seen back at some college tournaments players not being ready on the line and saying, hey, do we have offsides ready yet or left yet? Yep, let's just go offsides and take our time. They get 60 more seconds to decide what they're going to do.
A dangerous yet potent strategy, Brian.
Here we go. Koo looking back. Mura still looking for an option. Now forced to dump it. Lamb. Mura. U.S. zone pushing them back, going for the hammer over the top, wide open downfield, and going for it deep. Cohen is there for the U.S. Can't get there, but we have a call on the play. We'll have to take a close look with this one. It was Allison Short coming down with it.
Calling a strip.
Here we go. Big bomb of a throw. Oh, so close.
And we don't have instant replay yet under the WFDF or USA rule set. So we're just going to have to make the call here in the booth, Brian. And to me, that one looked like a tie ball.
And it's going to be ruled a goal for the Canadians. A lot of people misnomer in the USAU rule set that a tie ball goes to the offense. There is actually no such thing as a tie. I'm getting a little bit of confirmation here from the observers. She can just repeat what she saw, and then they can go based off that. And it looks like Cohen's going to give up the strip call. Very close.
So no official capacity to make a ruling, but there to step in, arbitrate in the conversation, clarify, perhaps, yes, both of you were at the disc at the same time.
Not sure what that is in WFDF rules. I know in USAU, again, there is no such thing as a tie. If you can't come to an agreement, it goes back. But the common misconception was that tie goes to the offense. Maybe it came from baseball or some other sports.
Perhaps a little common sense as well. The offense generally having the advantage in the game. Why not give it to them?
Kevin's in favor of offense. More skies, more scoring.
It always made sense to me that the tie goes to the offense. The offense is there starting the game, the pull off. It's their job to score.
It's not the defense.
The onus is on the defense to get the disc back.
Got to get it clean. Kevin's making it harder for the defense to do their job.
And that pull coming right at us, just past the midfield line, where
Chastain's going to take it at the brick mark. Another zone here from Canada. It's been trying to chip away at this early U.S. lead, 6-3. U.S. had a 5-0 lead. Chastain, Cooper, Leo, and another quick turnover. Just too quick for the U.S. Too impatient with this zone. It looks like they've had open throws they've just missed. Coming up with it for Canada, putting at the space, and Canada strikes back quickly. Jordan Moran with the goal.
Yeah, Marin, one of the workhorses for the Canadian team. She's a captain and a returner from the 2010 U23 squad that took gold. Excuse me. Took 4th or 5th place at that tournament. Was thinking of the 2012 performance in Japan where the Canadian team took gold.
We have a resident Canadian expert here assisting us, Jeremy Norton, here to watch his brother play for the United States. Going back and forth. Justin actually playing for Team Canada, the mixed team at WUGC.
And there is a team that won gold over in Italy. I want to go back to that point. It looks like the U.S. is taking a timeout here to discuss what's happening, get themselves back in their flow, maybe build up more of a lead. But while they're talking, let's talk a little bit about the zone that Canada is putting on. We've seen a few different looks when they come down, specifically in their cup. The first time we saw the zone, we had a 4-person solid cup. That was a time where Chastain dumped it immediately to the sideline. They put on just a classic 4-man cup. The next time they came down in the zone, they had a 3-man cup with 1 chasing the dump. And this most recent time, they just came down 3 people in the cup. More classic than the four-woman cup.
And I like the move, and I got to tell you why. You're going when they're coming down the four-man cup. U.S. has been going upwind. You're going to force them to throw hammers in over the tops, and U.S. really has to fight to throw that. Now, when you're going with the wind, that three-man cup gives you one more additional person downfield, space to defend the hammer, a little bit more unique configurations.
Yeah, and it's hard to credit what caused the turnover there. The turnovers from the U.S. really just coming on execution ones. A swing pass on that first turnover. This one, just a little short 5-yard dump, uncovered into the cup. Hard to tell whether or not that's pressure. Those handlers having to adjust to the different looks when we have 3 in the cup versus 4 with 3 and a roamer back on the dump. So whether or not that's just a mental execution error or being caused by the different looks, I would give it a little bit of credit both ways.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why you throw zone, a change of pace. Right now, U.S. is rocking and rolling. They're striking quick. But it's zoning them, slow them down, see what happens. And credit the Canadians for doing the right thing. And here they go. They're going to come down and they're going to have a chance to convert on the double wind point, the double break, where we go upwind and then come back downwind. And this is a game right now, 6-4. We talked about it. U.S. off to a red-hot start. Both teams, though, exhibiting the ability to throw in the wind. And a dropped pole. Oh, my goodness. If you wanted to hand the Canadians a score, you practically did it. They're going to get this one on the goal line. The crowd re-engaged. Koo wide open. Oh, huge bid. And Canada giving a gift on a silver platter. Well, they go into the transition.
Immediately moving into that 4-person cup we saw. One of their several options we know they've got in the bag. Trying to trap the U.S. in their end zone, back left corner. Wanting to force them to put the disc up into the wind, hopefully floating up, allowing the Canadian defenders to just go and chomp it up and probably move quickly into a goal.
I don't know about you. I'm not liking the U.S. formation here. There's only a couple of people uncrowded, but credit getting them off the sideline.
And the U.S. very crowded.
Scarth, though, coming in with the D. Koo, open up the line, puts it out to space. Scarth can't get the double happiness. And we'll see if U.S. can really come out with a better formation here. They've not been able to get swings off. There's been nobody backfield for the U.S. to change the point of attack. Still stuck along that sideline. Yeah, Chastain.
I feel like the West Coast line has been the one getting it done. Like
trying to get off the line, but nobody is home.
The first score was the West Coast line, and so was the second.
Putting it out to Desmond. Reels it in. Dangerous for the U.S. to get off the line. Cooper, Desmond, Oper. Groom just turfs the flick. She's going to want that one back. The Koo is going to go the other way. Big point, putting it up for Scarth. Scarth comes it right on the goal line, calls a timeout for Team Canada.
Canada using their second timeout. None left here in this close game now, 6-4. Canada on the doorstep, trying to bring it to within 1. There's the turnover, just getting into the ground. And this throw by Koo, I really like how she releases the disc high. You've got a strong wind going. She comes around on her body, raises her right shoulder up, and allows the disc to float in the wind rather than stepping out, allowing the wind to take it and push it into the end zone, allowing receiver to walk up under it, clap catch it, and in this case, call the timeout. The timeout call, I'm not a huge fan of the immediate timeout call when you get onto your goal line. Generally means you've got a matchup advantage because your players saw the disc going up. They're excited. The defenders are maybe tired a lot of the times, hoping the D makes the play. They're not maybe running as hard. I always like to take a look at what you have in the end zone before you call the timeout rather than going with the immediate timeout. I didn't see it that time, but she easily could have had one or two Canadian teammates running by her, could have made it easy flip for the score. Now they're going to set up the U.S. getting a chance to set their D, put some pressure on the Canadians as they're on the doorstep once again.
And looking, and right away, looks like we have a foul on the play. And I see what you're saying, Kevin. Here they're going to go with an ISO look at, it appears, Kimura. And they're going to go over the top. This one for the goal does work. Timeout works out in Canada's favor, and they're within one. I see what you're saying. I don't know here with an isolation look. It's going to be, it works out for the Canadians. But, yeah, you had the timeout call right on the goal line. Normally that's what I call a rookie mistake, literally in college, when a rookie comes in, catches that deep pass.
Scared,
ready to call timeout, and then you try to get the dump off. You give the opportunity for the U.S. to set up, but Canada really doing a good job there of spacing out the play, not allowing for any poaches.
Well, and the U.S. didn't respond appropriately to the play set of the Canadians, which was the ISO play. They lined 4 players on the upwind side of the field, and all the U.S. players just following their assignments over there, not giving any help. We've seen all the scores in this downwind end zone all happening on the near side. So if you're looking at your screen, the front left, all the scores have been happening there. The Canadian team clears it out, and no U.S. defenders come to help out there. Because what are you worried about, Brian? A hammer over the top into this wind, that one's not going to make it. A bladey flick, that one's not going to get there in time. Really, you got to step off, help out your teammates.
Nonetheless, we have it at 6-5. U.S. still maintaining that lead, still with breathing room. And if you're the U.S. team right now, you got to have the confidence. You know, you're still with the lead. You knew that the Canadians were going to counterpunch. Here we have Jones and another 3-man cup here for the Canadians trying to trap against that sideline. Over the top, finding Liu. Wide open. It's Cohen. Just has to wait for it. Reels it in. Easy goal for the U.S. Goes up 7-5, and they get a little bit of that momentum back. And the crowd for the U.S., Team USA's here cheering them on, giving them some support, trying to match that Canadian crowd. Breaking the zone. It looks like USA there able to solve things a little bit. They still have to hope that they're not going to get trapped going upwind yet again, because that 4-man cut from Canada has been pretty tough for them to face.
Definitely see the crowd there getting involved. Interesting when we look across the field here to see in the crowd, the Japanese women's team over there scouting out for their matchup later in this tournament when they have to face Canada, and that one's going to be extremely important. Canada, Japan yet to meet the 3 powerhouses here. If the U.S. holds their seed here, Japan opportunity to steal it from the Canadian, to steal the Canadian seed, end up at number 2. Big advantage come Saturday in the semis matchups. You don't want to end up facing the U.S. there. But then again, you don't want to end up facing either of these teams.
This pole going out of bounds. Going to give Canada at the brick mark. Ku, Kimura, now in the field again. Ho, Wang, Mendel. Short and Scarth. Scarth making big plays so far for the Canadians, and a wide cup for the U.S. Going over the top into the heart of the zone. Right there is caught by Short. Looking back, Kimura, Ku. This one overthrown, caught by the U.S., moving quickly. Good. And a potent thrower, but throws right into Canadian defenders' hands. Scarth once again. This one trading turnovers back and forth to go with this quick pace. Now settling down. Snyder calling a timeout for the United States. Confusion here of whether or not they have timeouts.
The crowd calling for no timeouts. Unless we got something wrong on that first timeout, we show Canada having used 2, the U.S. having used 1. And rules clarification on the Woofdoof. There's no penalty for calling a timeout when you don't have one, except you add 2 to the stall count. So small penalty, not the penalty like the U.S. where it's an automatic turnover. The U.S. clearly possessing a timeout there. The observer, Julie, stepping in to give her opinion on the situation, not the ruling, but letting them know what she knows.
7-5 U.S. lead. Timeout call here with a chance to get an upwind point would be critical here for the U.S. Been able to convert on the downwinds. Both teams have been able to do that once getting an upwind score. A little bit of happy birthday going on in the field from the crowd, trying to figure out who that is for. Zooming in there on some of the U.S. men.
I think I need to clarify my comments earlier, Brian, about the Japanese team watching. Again, as we mentioned, we're more or less in a battle of 3 atop of this division. Still some undefeated teams. Australian women 4-0 right now. Those 5th seeds showing very well in the standings due to the way the schedule is set up. They haven't played anybody seated above them, so they're doing as expected. So as we said, U.S., Canada, Japan, the 3 that we're going to be talking about. We'll get back to that after this point.
Snyder in here with a timeout call. You let Canada set up in their 4-person cup, this time trapping. Snyder.
And very wide the cup now. They've had it tighter, but this time allowing some space.
Going deep. Caught along the sideline. Charia still trapped. Looking back for Lou. Around to Snyder. Good is back. And to Good. And Julia Snyder in the center of the field. Puts this one out to space. The receiver looks like a misread on the play. Gets it. Canada with the turn. Scarth once again. That has to be her 2nd or 3rd D. And a foul called along the sideline.
Scarth out of UVic. Has had experience before. One of the 17 of 20 playing on a Canadian national team in the past. So not unusual for players with big time experience like that know that when you're down as they were 6-2 early in this game, there's still a long way to go before it's over.
Still some talking here about this foul.
And I'm not sure exactly why there's conversation there. It seemed like
going deep.
They
going
must have
for
been,
no one.
It must have been a contest and a high count coming in there.
Lou going over the top. Snyder waits for it. Lou. Snyder working it together. Snyder going deep for Charrier. right in the hands, just can't reel it in. Kimura, Canada really liking their chances deep. Quick turnover there. That's what we've seen from both squads when they scored up one. It's usually preceded by this turnover in the giving the other team a short field. Snyder. Good as the dump, looking for motion. Tries to fit it in, miscommunication.
Great physical defense on Good there. Helping out with the turn.
Kimura looking back, trying to find Koo. Good was almost there. Koo looking upfield. Kimura rips it down. Pushing upfield. Canadian team trying to be patient here, swinging the disc around. Short. Looking underneath, throw behind, turnover. Back to the U.S. Four-man cup.
The U.S. slowly walking to that disc.
They've really tried to bust this zone with deep throws recently, have not been able to work it through. Lou. Snyder tries to go through, big block by Wong. Both teams pretty tired at this point, no timeouts left. Koo looking to end it. Looking back, tight defense, Ho. Back to Koo. Looking for the break. Nice backhand to Kimura. Now looking back for Koo, a two-woman show. Contact on the play. And a call on the field. You see a little bit of the exhaustion. Some jeers from the crowd.
And the crowd unhappy, but I liked Snyder's defense there. She stood tall. See on your right side of your screen. Perhaps a bit of a moving screen, to borrow from basketball there. But she set up, held the space.
Yeah, you see Koo come very close, and a movement definitely from Snyder, but nothing major there. Short. Kimura looking back. Mendel. Kimura. Not much available downfield. He was playing really tight defense despite this marathon point. Wong looking for Scarth. Kimura doing work. Nice move. Not for a goal. Almost in there. Great double move. Gives him the disc on the goal line. This one's going to be big. Looking for the hammer. Puts it over the top. Yes, for the goal. Canada back within one.
And Kimura putting on a clinic as she cuts forward, back, and then forward here, and finishes with the hammer. The crowd loving that move, initiated that play. And a very impressive move it was. A couple things I liked there by the U.S. defense, even though they didn't get the conversion. I like their choice to start forcing flick. As we mentioned earlier, a lot of the scores going to that back left side of the end zone. Let's force them to go to the side where people aren't scoring, so I like that adjustment. And I also like the defense by Snyder there on the mark, on the dump mark, really working to disrupt the Canadian handlers with some physicality. How much physicality is allowed on the mark is up for debate right now. From my perspective, always rooting for the D, as you know, Brian.
Never been
I'll
out, a man
allow
of
a
the
little
people.
bit more. The crowd would have allowed less in that situation, though, as they all took the opportunity to give a little boo.
Well, we have a fairly unbiased crowd here. Nobody's rooting for any particular team as we go. Team Canada here in Toronto, Canada. York University. I'm Brian Jones here with Kevin Minderhout, closing out the first half of action between the two heavyweight favorites, so to speak. Jones.
A fantastic half it has been. The U.S. going up early 4-0, at times 6-2, and Canada working their way back with a 4-1 run.
Caustic back to Jones. U.S. has shown some trouble here dealing with these Canadian zones. Now a little bit quicker movement and different handlers. Caustic. Transition to man for Canada. Jones looking backfield. Soper. Be around, finding Groom. Chastain underneath. Coming back to the middle of the field. Now looking for the dump. Desmond, no. Just out of reach, tip to Caustic. To the bemoans of the Canadian crowd. Groom. Looking back, trying to find Jones. Trying to push through, and foul called on the play. Lots of contact. And this one will certainly bring in the jeers of the crowd, but this one's going to come back.
And again, unpopular with the crowd. I think that's a great play by Groom. Feels the contact here, feels that right hand of the defender, then leans in at the high count, gets the free pass and the disc back. If observers were out there, I have no doubt that they would give her the fresh stall count. I don't know what the discussion is there.
Looks like a contested call coming in on 6. Things starting to get a little bit chilly out here as the wind's still picking up, and we're going to find Chastain just out of reach. That wind is really going to push that disc away. Chastain.
But that's the spot, and that's the throw, but didn't quite get the right arm high enough, didn't quite get enough lift on that disc to allow it to float in. The wind got a little, picked it up a little.
And Desmond gets it right back. Claire Desmond, tallest athlete on the field, I believe, for the U.S. Jones. Desmond, let's take a look at that. Well in front for defender, Jones. Groom draws 2 defenders. Looking up top, Groom is there. Makes the catch, 8-6. U.S. leads still by 2 after that long point. Now we start to get some posturing before halftime. Some critical points here.
Becoming an absolute grind on the field, Brian. We're losing those clean possessions we saw earlier and having to dig in and earn your points. Groom digging into the ground here and picking up the...
Looks like we might actually be going to half. We actually have some timed half here in the World Juniors. Looks like at 8-6. We're going to check on this in a second.
I do believe you're correct, Brian. We've got no timeouts on the scoreboard. Another one of the intricacies of the Woofdorf rules for all of you North American viewers out there. We don't have a hard cap. But we do have a limit when halftime has to come on. We've reached that right now, so we're going to take a quick 10-minute break, and we'll be back with you for the rest of this fantastic matchup between powerhouses USA and Canada here in Toronto. I'm Kevin Minderhout. That's Brian Jones, and we'll be back with you in 10 minutes.
Back here in Toronto, Canada for the second half action of USA versus Team Canada. Team Canada, the host team. Large support out here, and they've needed it in the first half with the USA going up 5-0. But here we are, 8-6, after time constraints have led us to the halftime. 1 short of 9 for the USA, still with a 2-point lead. Kevin, it's been an exciting game so far with Canada roaring back in the late stages of the first half.
True, and it's been a subtle comeback with the Canadian team not going on a run to get back in the game like the U.S. went on their 4-0 run to start. but subtly. And we're going to start here off of plays like this with the double move by Chimera getting the break. It's just been a 2-1 game. Canadians getting 2 points to the U.S. 1, and rinse and repeat. The U.S. set to pull here.
Another chance for Canada to get on the board. An upwind point available. Finding Scarth and some contact in the middle of the field. We have a foul call on the play.
Yeah, they just got tangled up. You can see them there on the wide shot, the right side of your screen. Just a little intertwining of the feet.
Scarth been big on defense, but now trapped against the sideline. Groom back, and a turnover, just can't come down with it. Chen from Scarth is going to give the U.S. possession close to the end zone. Chastain, Groom looking like they're going to be isolated. Groom against Chen. Chastain picks it up, slip on the play. Now looking for the dump. Finding Snyder back, inside, flick, break, 9-6. U.S. breaks to start off.
And Snyder finding her mark there. A tricky throw, but again, keeping the disc high, releasing from that high point to the back left of the end zone. We'll see it again and again. And one of the stories of this game, Brian, has been short field turnovers. A lot of the breaks coming off of errors near the goal line in the red zone, making it very easy to convert, especially going upwind here. It's almost a gimme.
Why isn't Kimura and Wu out there, or Ku for them, after all of the work they've done so far? It's been a pure two-man game and something you could have used going in the upwind point. You've had halftime. You've had your rest. You're receiving the disc. I don't understand the thinking there by the Canadians other than maybe trying to get someone else involved. But you got trapped in the sideline, didn't have many options. Early second half, I think, mistake to not have your best personnel that have really been part of that comeback.
Well, and that goes to how the Canadians set their line. They work in a pod system with the West Coast players in one pod and the East Coast players in another.
Zone here from the U.S., 3-3-1. Really with man on the handlers. Scuba over the top. Wind really picking up. Canada going downwind. It's the most blustery it's been all game long. Short, dishes it off. Ku wants the inside break. Kimura, and so steady so far for the Canadians. Now looking back for Ku. Not many options. Going to be forced to put it out to space. Works out. Madison trying to get rid of the disc. Big D by the U.S. Going to give it right back. Give U.S. a chance.
That was number 10, Stern with the D.
Good.
The 4-woman cup now for the Canadians, keeping it tighter this time around.
Turnover here, gives it back to the Canadians.
And short field to work with for Canada. 1-2 passes maximum, and they'll be within 2 of the U.S.
Ku. Kimura. Looking for the inside break, not available now, forced to go to Ku. Trying to find something, puts it out to space. Gets back up, Ku, dishes it for the score. Lamb reeling it in, 9-7. U.S. still up by 2.
And the U.S. defense forcing flick, trying to prevent the Canadians from scoring in that back left spot of the end zone. Keep reiterating it. They're making the mistake, though, of getting too low on their mark. They're trying to block this low-release backhand break, which is the one that you're normally worried about when there's no wind, but they need to get those hands up, prevent the high floater, which is where all the breaks are coming from, both Canada and U.S.
You got to be, give credit, though, to these throwers so far in this wind. Normally, with how much the wind's pushing it, you would expect turnovers to come from those high releases, and so far they've been mostly on target, which is really why we've still had this high score built up. We didn't get to half in terms of score. We got capped due to time, but it's not been impossible for either team to score upwind or downwind in this situation.
And that is what I'm saying about the U.S. need to make the adjustment to get the right hand high. They're not turning it over because of the style of throw choice they're using. We would expect more turnovers coming around with that hard, low backhand break, which is normally so deadly and dangerous, where you really want to prevent your money.
Here we go. Canada within 2. Has remained within striking distance, and we get to see the U.S. offense back on the field. This ball coming in. Going to be centered to Snyder from Jones. 4-man cup. We have not seen this on the downwind side. Jones. Looking for Snyder, and a miscommunication there. Just out in front. Snyder stopping short. Going to give it right back.
And Jones awfully casual in her throw to Snyder.
Kimura, the West Coast pod, going up line. Puts this one perfectly out in space to Koo. Tracks it down. See if Kimura can do her magic like she did last time. Puts this one out to space. Canada within 1, 9-8.
And this West Coast pod is really getting it done for Canada. That was a fantastic throw to get this play going upwind, floating it in front of her receiver. And here another one, just using the wind fantastically. Going back to the pod system, a lot of these young women out of the UBC traffic programs, and they were the ones that got it started. We've seen, you mentioned the names you mentioned over and over again, including Chimera with the assist there, all part of that pod.
Kate Scarth really having a great game so far. D's and goals across the board.
And they started it out early. The first point came from them. The second point came from them. This big point comes from them. Several others.
Let's see if the Canadians can get the East Coast pod representing a portion of the country. The Capitals portion here. U.S. offense has had trouble dealing with the zone. In the majority, sometimes it's been execution errors, and we said, hey, the U.S. just needs to hit that open throw. And sometimes it's been they've had nowhere to go with it, and I really think their offense has not done a great job of providing that option for the swing back, losing a few yards but having that angle. Yes, it's a strong win, but these throwers have that backhand. They can put a swing pass out to space. U.S. has relied on really over-the-tops and deep shots to get it done.
And here a very good opportunity for Canada to get this game back on serve with the downwind defensive possession.
This ball going to sail out of bounds, going to give the U.S. at the brick.
And what I'd like to see there is a roller forcing the U.S. to pick it up on the sideline in the corner.
And we see another zone look coming. Schneider.
And here is the exact setup we saw when the U.S. broke their run. Snyder in the middle. The Canadians leaving the handler wide open here on the sideline. Let's see what they do.
Schneider. Soper up the line to Chastain, opening things up. And we see here the 3-man cup for the first time going and for the U.S. going against the wind. The wind has settled down a bit. Coming back for Stern. Chastain. Looking for the dump. Upline Chastain going deep. The Schneider comes from the handler spot. U.S. gets back on the board, 10-8.
And that was a mistake defensively to force to go man backhand on the U.S. Every throw there looked crisp. The U.S. looked revitalized, like they had whatever they wanted. The Canadians had such a good zone trapping them on this flick side, forcing them into uncomfortable positions with the disc, and then they went away from it with something that looked like a 3-person quick transition cup, perhaps even a man on the handlers and a zone downfield, only for a little bit. They didn't contain the U.S. in any way, and even there at a high stall count, they're just so comfortable with the backhand, able to rip it deep. No effect by the wind whatsoever.
At first, I liked the idea of the Canadians going with the 3-man cup when U.S. was going with the downwind and the 4-man cup upwind. But here we see it on the upwind point for the U.S. They go with the 3-man cup, and I'm starting to think that it's more of an East-West Coast pod system that they're doing, where one team, one pod is going to show this zone. I think if you're Canada, you have to come down with, and you're upwind. When U.S. is going upwind, you want to come with that 4-man cup. And
put your West Coast pod on there. They're the ones that are doing the heavy lifting right now. It's no disrespect to the East Coast pod because they're going to bring a lot. They're just not feeling it so much right now. Get them in there. Big point like that, you have to get that game to 9s. Now they have to work it upwind.
Kimura. A little bit of soft poaching here from the United States. Looking underneath, Scarth reels it in. Cooper in hot pursuit. Putting it deep. Kimura trying to fit it in. Jones is there, but the catch is made. Peliquin making the grab, but just shy of the end zone. And timeout called by Canada.
And Chimera throwing up dimes into the wind.
Nowhere for Jones to make the D.
Fantastic effort. And this one, the timeout is a fine choice. You're gassed, you've been running, you're on the ground, you don't have the opportunity to take a moment and survey the field. Thumbs up on the timeout call there.
Kevin gives a seal of approval. We'll be right back to see if it was the right choice here for the Canadians. This is Next Gen Network's coverage of the U23 championships here in Toronto. And we're back here in Toronto, Canada. Canada on the goal line trying to punch this one in and make it again a 1-point game. Once down 5-0. And we have Peliquin with the disc on the goal line. Looking for the inside break, not available. Kimura so deadly with the moves, but Groom is there with the D. Cammy Groom, defensive playmaker for the U.S. He's been all over the field this tournament, making huge plays. Groom now going to go deep or over the middle, going to be tipped, but Cooper reels it in, now going deep to Lou. Will this hang? Lou can't run it down. To the disappointment and pleasure of this mixed crowd.
And the flick catching the wind there. Too hot. Not enough rise and float. Perhaps the hard pump fake coming around to that backhand that's been so effective over and over again. But nothing that can be done now. Just get back, play hard defense, get it back.
Huge bid by Cooper. Doesn't come up with it. Crowd asking for the huck. It's not coming here. Madison gets it off. Oh, and Kimura. Groom just out of reach. Kimura does not look deep for Scarth. Now looking for an option. Nothing available. Gonna put this one inside. Just off the side of the hip. Can't come up with it. There's Lamb, intended receiver. Jones. Things were a little hectic in pace. They need a veteran to step in and shut it down, or slow it down, excuse me. Lou. Vining Groom. Jones. Canadians look gassed here. Right there for the goal. Chow coming in. Goal for the Americans. Big break, 11-8.
And that one easy to say both teams needed that score. The U.S. coming up with it.
Well, now we're starting to see why that East Coast pod needs to get things going. That West Coast pod looked gas for the Canadians at the end of that point.
And a long point, lots of up and down the field there. Neither team converting in the red zone where it's most critical. Out of that timeout, the Canadians didn't look as organized as you would hope. They crowded the area around the disc and ended up without a reset and forced to throw into the open hands of Cami Groom, who once again is making plays for the U.S. The big bright spot for them in that come from behind victory against Japan earlier. And the sun now setting here in Toronto. The wind dying down a touch, but still present. The temperature a little bit chillier than we've been used to so far.
It's actually felt like we're in the great white north a little bit. Everybody's starting to bundle up after the heat wave ripping through training camp in Buffalo. In Canada, really showing they've been showing a different look here on offense after the zone has been not used. And an overthrow, nothing going Canada's way in these last couple of points.
And Hatch came out of that set play flying towards the goal line.
Looking deep. In there. Makes the play. Great bid by Canada.
That's Erica Tucker, one of their big-time handlers, making a big-time D. Canada in a high-pressure situation right now, having to go 70 yards to stay in it.
Over the top. U.S. is there. Smart read on the disc. Chastain, but right back comes Canada. Says, give me that back. They're going the other way. Trading turns here and a little bit trying to take command here, slow things down. It's Tucker. Just got the big D in the end zone.
The pace has definitely changed, Brian. Both teams just going boom, boom, boom.
And here we go again. This one in the hands. Out of it, though. Fortune. Back to Chastain.
No rest for the weary here.
Coming close once again.
Here's that short field situation. The U.S. needing to be very careful not to give it to Canada there. And a phenomenal grab, towing the line.
Inside break up to Chastain. This one's going to be overthrown, though. Back to Canada we go. Seesawing on this point. Turnovers. Name of the game right now. I think big, great chance here. If the U.S. gets it back, they need to call a timeout and settle this down. Great opportunity to go upwind. You have a chance to go up 4 with the disc in your hands. Canada, though, you want to maybe save that timeout. Chen getting things going, trying to go up the line. Great mark by the U.S. Stops it. Inside break, overthrown. And now here's where I think you got to call timeout. I think you settle things down, you use it. They're going to go for it, though.
Well, they're playing a field position game right now, Brian. They're not playing a patient work it up kind of game. They don't want to turn that. They don't want to turn it over in the short field, as evidenced by the continual pick it up, find somebody, and let it loose.
Pesh looking for the goal, overthrown. Guess in that situation, if you're going to call a timeout, you're going to give an opportunity for Canada to set that vaunted four-man cup. Regardless here, USA unable to convert and has had it on the goal line a couple of different times on this possession. Canada coming back. This is going to turn into a pivotal point. We have the East Coast pod giving some rest to that West Coast pod that's done so well for Canada.
And all the more critical as this game drags on here. 9:20.
Putting it deep. Chastain there. Crowded. Puts it down. Both teams just looking to play that field position game. Smart defense by the U.S., though. Straight ups on the mark. Chastain calls the timeout. Here we go. Take the rest. Recuperate. That gets my seal of approval. 11-8. USA leading here by 3.
And going back to what I was saying as I interrupted play, the game coming to a close. We are 10 minutes away from the cap, which is a soft cap here under WFDF rules. The only cap that we have. There is no time cap. The reason this game started late, because there is a matchup between Colombia and Great Britain on this very field right before this game that was having a great deal of trouble dealing with the wind. They ended up in a cap situation, and at that point, that game is played out no matter how long it takes. So everybody has a chance to win no matter how big your deficit. You're still in it come the cap situation. There is no time advantage, but there is a point differential advantage. So the U.S., if they put this one in, they're going to make it very difficult for Canada to come back.
And let's recap this game here. USA coming out to a 5-0 start, looking like they might run away with this. Canada, though, having enough strength and courage to come back, and Kaimura and Ku really leading the charge there, those two handlers with big points. USA's fast start, though, really think you got to credit them, their ability to throw in the wind, talking to them before the game, very confident, especially going through training camp. As an alumnus of University of Buffalo, where they had the training camp, there were days there where there were wind warnings where they said, don't go outside if you have to, but class is still on, of course. And we'd go out there to practice for a little bit, for about 5 minutes, try to throw in that wind, then go back inside because we were frozen. They got to deal with the heat up there. Buffalo usually known for its cooler temperatures, but they came prepared to start off this game. Looking deep, still trying to do that. Timeout doesn't seem to calm them down at all, but they are shooting deep and playing that field position game, as you said, Kevin.
Well, then you don't need to be calm when all you're doing is gripping it and ripping it, Brian. It's a pretty easy recipe to follow. You get the disc and you see somebody going, let it loose. You want to make sure that somebody's in the position. You don't want to just throw it to nowhere, but you do want to take your chances. You want to make sure somebody's down there to receive it.
Kevin Minderhout, an alumni of the University of Oregon, founder of the Grip It and Rip It program.
I wouldn't say founder so much as Florida was doing it much before we ever did. But back to the game, Brian. U.S. picking up. Chastain on the sideline.
Over the top. Collision, but a clean D by Canada. Tucker looking backfield. The crowd, a little bit of taunting, heckling here. Counting the number of completed throws. We're tuned. That's been a heavy turnover point. Both teams really playing the punt and D strategy, but Canada here a little bit more patient. Moran putting it up. Break side. Almost coming down with it in the back right corner of the end zone.
And both teams moving away from where they've had the most success scoring, which is the back left, and now trying to go over the top to that back right. Nobody having a lot of success. As Snyder walks the disc up, you might see it back behind, we've got a big movie screen set up there. After this game, a screening of Chasing Sarasota for all the players, one of the many events here this evening.
Soper. Chastain. Snyder played a lot of points in this game from the handler spot, facing a lot of zone. And it works out again for the Canadians. Scarth yet again. Kate Scarth with her at least 4th D of this game, and all over the field making plays for the Canadians. And we're still getting, as we get closer and closer to soft cap, this game is not going to make it likely past 13 or 14. Going deep, crowd around the area, tipped in the air, caught for the goal. Marathon point over. Canadians win that one and maybe get the surge of momentum that comes along with that exhausting point.
And the East Coast line getting it done there in a scrappy, frenetic paced point where they do what the U.S. has been getting this game, the second chance opportunity, bringing it in within 2.
Sometimes when you come into these win games, you see one of the teams trying to take their time and work it through a zone or work it through the upwind, and both of these teams started out in that way, and they were going through and they were working it, and it was for some reason at the exact same time both teams decided we're going to be the ones to just say we're going to huck it and we're going to use our athletes to win this game. And you know what? It came out where Canada finally won one after about the 10th time of that doing it. I wonder if the U.S. is going to come back and say, hey, let's try to settle down here at all. We've got this 11-9 lead. Let's make sure we close out these downwind points. Maybe you play punt and play D. One of the rules I like to do is say if you're before half field, that pass has to be going deep unless you have someone open for sure. But after you get it, we get the D. After half field, you take your time and you work it. And Canada seemed to be doing that strategy after a while. We have the West Coast pod back in the field for Canada, Kamira and Koo. We'll see if they can continue their great play throughout this game. U.S. offense back on the field. Wind starting to pick up again. Gusting here and swirling. The wind has changed direction several times today. This Paul coming towards us. It's floating, but gently going out of bounds. Jones
deciding what she wants to do with it. Calls for the brick mark. You have the option to either take it on the goal line or at the brick mark. So Jones opting for the loss of a yard in order to center the disc in the field.
And a drop, just looking too far away. Big moment for the Canadians. This upwind break could lead to a downwind one. Kamira looking back. Frantic pace now, Kamira. Back with Koo. Going up line, putting it out too far. No, Koo with a sliding grab. Was she in? No ruling yet, some discussion. This would be big.
And they've got one of the officials in the orange jerseys they can go to and ask for clarification what they saw.
Not in, but Chimera right there. Huge break for Canada. Here they come, down 11-10, using that momentum off of that marathon point.
That West Coast pod playing out of their minds right now for Canada. And Chimera, she's got the upwind flick package. She's done that same throw 3 times now with the same scoring result for Canada. U.S. needs to make the adjustment and force her backhand in those upwind situations. But before that, all they really need to do is put the disc into the end zone. They don't need to worry about defense. As long as they can score here, they're going to win this game. That one, though, big for Canada, breaking upwind late in the count.
11-10. Cap may be looming, maybe on right now. Eleven to 10. U.S. taking the slow walk to the sideline. We have Kostick out there. Cooper, Desmond, Schneider.
Soft cap coming into effect.
Eleven to 10. Here comes the pull from Kimura. This one coming in fast. Going to stay down. Jones centering the disc. Snyder looking for Chastain. Finally able to get it on the other side of the field and change directions here for the offense. Snyder loves the backhand. Going deep, but right in the hands. Deep, deep. Nearly tipped, and the crowd holding their breath as well as the players. Kimura. Koo. No, Hugh. Ho. Comes down with it. Kimura. Staying patient. Kimura in the dump position. Going deep. Will this one stay? No, too far. Going deep for short was Koo. Chastain. Opportunity here to try to get through and transition.
And Canada wisely going back to their zone defense. Interesting there, they started with 3. The 4th one comes later. Great teamwork.
I really like what the U.S. is doing right now. They're staying wide. They have that third handler all the way on the side. You're facing a 4-man cup. I really like the handler popping here, getting it to Snyder, going with a backhand jack. Tipped in the air. Has to make the second tee. Great catch by. No, this one's gonna be a turnover. It looked like Cooper may have come down with it, but big collision.
Let's take a look at it though, Brian. Popping it up in the air, and Cooper tracking.
Had it in her hands. Is there a foul call there?
There does not appear to be any call on the play. I think that's the correct. No call.
Kimura is really having the pulse here of a title game with the crowd going deep. Short but caught. Scarth there yet again. Always seems to be in the right place at the right time. Desmond playing furious defense on Kimura. Great find. Koo putting it out to space. Inbounds. But there's a call on the play. Going to send this one all the way back.
That one's coming back on a stall call.
We'll have soft cap after this point, but this one coming all the way back. A fantastic find by Scarth, but stall called on the play. Exciting game here.
You can't ask for anything more, and that was a find. To find who over here on the near side of the field, high in that count.
Still some discussion. Crowd getting into it. And a great crowd here today. A Go Observers cheer originating in the crowd.
Naturally from the U.S. contingent.
And play restarts. Scarth looking for an option. Forced to go. Kimura can't reel it in. Indeed by Snyder. And quickly setting that 4-man cup. Gets it over the top. Nice break for the U.S. Desmond wide open on the other side of the field. Chosen to go back. Snyder finds Chastain. Scarth coming in, was hungry for another D. Chastain. Looking back. Kostick. Hammer. in the middle of the field. Salcharier. Chastain finds Jones. Chastain fitting it through tight spaces. Jones. Desmond right in the goal line. Push pass for the goal. U.S. huge point there, and soft cap being on 12-10, game to 14.
And these young ladies putting on a show here in the featured game of the evening. Claire Desmond
finding Lisa Cooper for the goal.
And soft cap is now on. This game is going to 14. And we are going to take a moment to thank our sponsor this evening, Elemental Technologies, providing the encoding software to get your video anywhere in the world. Thank you very much to Elemental. And back to the game, Brian.
Yeah, a little bit of recap here. We're still here in Toronto, Canada. If you're just tuning in, U23 World Championships at York University. I'm Brian Jones here with Kevin Minderhout, bringing you coverage of this exciting showcase matchup. Straight pools for the women's division here at Worlds. Everybody playing everybody. U.S. coming out with a great come-from-behind victory earlier in the day. 16-14, down to Japan. 3 breaks in a row. Wins the game 17-16 after a goal line stand. Canada undefeated so far coming into this game.
And now the U.S. trying to do the opposite of the come-from-behind, the keep-ahead victory. They went up with the early 4-0 lead, and Canada has been slowly chipping away, trying to get back into this one and steal it, and potentially the #1 seed from USA.
Canada never led in this game. USA up 5-0 early. Canada battling back, chipping away, as you said, Kevin, those 2-for-1s, getting 2 points to every U.S. one. Now starting to trade points as we got into the second half. U.S. to pole. East Coast pod on the field for Canada. This one coming in fast. Hit the ground. Gonna let the U.S. set, and here comes their own version of the 4-man cup. Lots of people crowding the disc to the sideline. Tucker.
They've got 5 within a 10-yard radius there. I like it.
Really crashing that cup, going the hammer over the top. Too far, giving it U.S. right on the doorstep. Groom is going to take this one. No, going to go back, actually leave it for Stern. And we have a call in the stack. Looks like maybe Lou or Sal on the ground. Lou going to leave the field, but that overthrow by the hammer just crucial in these late stages.
And I like that decision to really crowd that disc early. 5 defenders within a 10 to 15 yard radius. Nobody's had any success, so to speak, over the top.
You can see the background right now, actually chasing Sarasota being shown. Not sure anybody's over there watching as this game has been tight throughout. Finding Groom for the goal, 13-10. U.S. within 1 of taking this victory, and a monumental victory at this tournament. Be to take down Canada and Japan in one day.
And Groom having another fantastic game. She was one of the big pieces for them in the comeback victory over Japan, and she had a clutch block at a critical time in this game too, with the U.S. up 9-8 on Canada. Canada knocking at the doorstep, upwind goal, and Groom came in and sneaked that one away. That one a real game changer here, showing she has the big time potential. We all knew she did.
Both sections of the crowd supporting their team. 13-10. Canada certainly capable of a run here, but you got to like the U.S.'s chances.
And the Japanese team, the women's team that was watching early, has now cleared out. An interesting, if meaningless, development for the game. Perhaps believing the game to be over, but Canada, I'm sure, has feelings otherwise. They've got the downwinder here, looking to punch it in and take as long as they want because there's no time cap on this game.
You got to believe you can get the downwinder first of all. And then you got to say to yourself, if we can get the upwinder, we can get the downwinder back, and you're there tied for universe.
You don't even need to believe it's pretty much done with Chimera fielding this one in the center.
Coup. I think Scarth. Jones was right there. Coup. Looking underneath for Madison. Reels it in with the right hand. Scarth. Big movement here. Lamb. Lamb looking upfield for the dump. Great move by Coup. Gets it back in the center of the field, gaining yards. We have a call on the play.
Discussion still ensuing. Coming back in.
Coup. Oh, with the disc. Looking for Chimera. Terrier doing a fantastic job there, trying to push back. Coup. Inside break floating. Yes, for the goal. Not sure that was the intended receiver. Nonetheless, Wong coming down with it.
And it, intentional or not, it did not matter. There was 4 Canadians all ahead of their U.S. defenders. Somebody was coming down with that.
Wong, number 48, coming down with it.
And it just happened to be Wong.
Bidding defender on the backside. Coup.
And that throw choice, the right one, you know, not to beat a dead horse here, but going inside out keeps it Oyo, the outside in order to just get a little lift from the wind and not a boost. Floats up, allows Wong to come in for the pretty layout and keep the game alive.
Such an advantage if you can have a thrower that can just put it out to space and let it hang. 13-11.
And this game point for the Americans, all they have to do is walk it down and collect the W. But standing in their way is Chimera there, the star player in this one for Canada, making everything happen for them.
Game point for the U.S. offense on the field. Kostick, Desmond, Chastain, Snyder, Groom, as well as Cohen. Mugen also out there. Kostick now with the Dix zone from Canada. Goes with the hammer. Dangerous one. Big D from behind and a foul call by Cohen. Tucker not happy with that one on the field. We'll have to see here. It was a blind play. Typically you see that back turn that's going to be called pass interference in the NFL, but a little bit different sport here. Looks like she had position.
Watching it live with a very close position, it was hard to see a foul there. Easy to see why the foul was called in a close game.
This one's going back to the U.S. Kostick. Loose zone here, letting Snyder go upfield. Now the swing to Chastain. Long swing. Wide open is Cohen. Groom streaking upfield. Cohen unmarked. Chimera looking for Desmond along the sideline. As Chastain decides to go back. Snyder over the top for the goal to Groom for the win. U.S. taking this one 14-11. Canada has to be proud with being able to battle back. Just comes up short. The U.S. team flooding the field in victory celebration, supporting their teammates. Groom, though, Snyder's so good all game with those high-release backhands.
And only fitting that Groom comes away with the final goal, as she was an absolute monster for the U.S. team this evening. And the Canada fans heading towards the exit.
This one's still a great game, even though the score does not really indicate how close this game felt at times.
Oh, man. Canada always in it, except for the beginning. But even then, as we were talking, a team this good is never out, especially when there's no time cap on this game. And I would go back to that last call there as a reason for the WFDF organization to experiment with observers. That one, I think an observer is going to rule that a turnover. There's nothing the defender can do in that case to get the disc in such a critical moment. I don't think Cohen was doing anything malicious, but the opportunity is there. She's probably influenced by, there's some contact, it's a big game, I'm going to make this call. I don't think it is the right call in the situation, but the Canadians can't do anything to get the disc back and have a chance at the upwinds break there. So a nice example there, extremely well played game, no bad calls, so to speak, and just a really fun match this evening. Congratulations to all the young women participating here at U23.
It could easily be a finals matchup. We might see USA versus Canada. Host crowd is going to have host team's going to have a lot of pressure on them, but also a lot of support. A great showing here by all the fans. Made it feel like this game counted for more than it did. Simple pool play victory while both teams are going to move on. But for Kevin Minderhout, I'm Brian Jones. Thanks for tuning in to Next Gen Network's coverage. We're going to have a big slate of games tomorrow, 3 of them. Be sure to check out our schedule online.
NGNultimate.com.
Thanks for tuning in.